Let's talk about grief at night. It can be one of the loneliest and distressing times in our grief. So in this episode, we're going to give you 9 ways of how to better your sleep. Let's jump in.
So this episode's brought to you by my mum, because it wouldn't be possible without her looking after our 9-month-old Nazare. And if you can hear them, they are literally above us right now.
Yep, having playtime. Sounds like they're being dinosaurs or something.
Totally.
I'm sure many parents can relate to that. I know kids all go through a dinosaur loving stage. So thanks, Donna.
Yes, thanks, Donna. Today we're talking about sleep and grief at night and how we can improve sleep. I thought it was just ironic that last night you were blaming me for your lack of sleep.
If you want to call it that, it wasn't a full blame game.
You were blaming me for not being sensitive to you being asleep when I wake up early in the morning.
Yes. You like to, what was the word I called it?
Well, you said that I, 1, wake up abruptly.
Abruptly, yes.
And 2, stomp around in the bedroom and the bathroom.
Yeah. And I called it scoot hootin'.
Which I completely disagree with.
Nah, scoot hootin' is a new word and it's for spouses who stomp around the bedroom while the other is trying to still sleep, whether it's conscious or not.
So
you're a scoot hooter.
Last night I tried to give you an example of what that actually sounds and looks like. Right before we were trying to go to sleep. I literally ripped the covers off, jumped out of bed and stomped around as per your description.
Yeah.
Which is clearly not what I do at 4, 5 or 6 in the morning, depending what I'm getting up for.
I just think the tallness of you doesn't realise.
The tallness of me.
The tallness and the bigness of your feet doesn't realise how heavy-footed they are in the morning when they haven't woken up just yet, you know?
All right. Well, it made us like we were hysterical.
Belly laughing. I just thought I was so funny coming up with this word scoot hootin'. Just scoot hootin' around the bedroom at 5:30 a.m.
I'm glad you can laugh at your own jokes. So. Anyway, on the topic of sleeping, so I think that's a perfect segue because this topic came up because of one of the members in our Facebook group, Helen, who actually just said, can we talk about managing
night grief?
How do we deal with grief at night?
And we had all sorts of members, adding to the conversation. Yeah. It went off. Yeah.
Saying that that's the worst time of my day when all the thoughts hit me. It's been 3 years, it's been 8 months since I lost them, and night is the hardest when everything stops and it's just me and my thoughts.
Absolutely. I think grief is like a shadow in the night when all the daytime light stops, all the busyness, all the things that you can fill your day with to mask everything. Once all that quietens down and you naturally are getting ready for bed, you can't stop the thoughts flooding your brain. And no one just listens to loud music and then jumps into bed and falls asleep. No one does that. No. I'd be very impressed if they could. But naturally, you get your body into a routine of quietening down and getting ready for sleep.
Which means facing your thoughts.
Yeah. And that's when they creep in.
Yeah, so we want to share on this episode 9 quality sleep identifiers. We're also going to be breaking these down in greater depth, as well as coping strategies and connecting or reconnecting your faith again on our upcoming workshop this month. It's called An Introduction to Processing Grief, and we're going to be sharing foundations for healing. And so if you want to start the new year off surrounded by others who know what it's like to be on the same journey as you and who are there to love and support you, we've dropped our link below. You can sign up to that workshop. It's completely free.
Yep.
And we're going to start the year strong together.
Yeah. Super practical. You'll definitely walk away with something.
Yeah. One thing we know about grief after 13 years is that we are far better off together than we are alone. And so that ties into this area of sleep. I was actually thinking about it even you and I, when we go to bed, it's the loneliest time you'll ever find in grief is sleep. Because even if, say, there's obviously so many different types of loss. We lost a parent each. We've gone through miscarriage. We've lost friends and family. We haven't lost a spouse. But even if you haven't lost a spouse and you're in bed, your spouse doesn't know what you're thinking. And so you are still alone, even if you are next to your spouse, if they're still alive and maybe you lost a child or a parent, etc. But you've got to deal with your thoughts. Yeah.
It's not like we're just thinking aloud all the time.
No.
That would be not productive.
No. even though we like to assume that we know what each other's thinking, which is a grave mistake often.
Yes.
It just hit me that, like, even though we share a lot together when we go for walks and when driving in the car and whatever, when it comes to going to bed, you have to wrestle with those thoughts yourself. And so I think that's worth unpacking today.
Absolutely. And you did a lot of that with your mum, hey? So this episode's brought to you, sponsored by Donna in many ways.
Yes.
Tell us about that for those who don't know.
Well, I was 23, still at home with my brother, my parents. Dad died suddenly, plane crash. So there one night, gone the next. And my parents were coming up on 30 years married and just the most loving, caring, fun household. That's sort of what we were grateful to grow up in. And so me being the eldest son, I just sort of stepped in to this role. I believe really God supported me in stepping up into that role of just caring for mum and my brother, but in very different ways. Mum and dad did everything together. They worked together, they played together, they holidayed, everything like us.
Yeah.
And so with dad immediately gone, it's like, well, there's a hole that you just can't replace, no matter how busy or how much you mask it or distract yourself with tasks and such. So when it would come to the nighttime, it would be the worst because we'd all go to our separate rooms and mum would be left to herself. No more just being in the kitchen, around each other, no more watching a TV show. And that's when the thoughts would hit her the most. And so what I ended up doing was putting her to bed for the next, we don't know the exact time, it was about like 18 months or so, every night. 18 months.
Okay, yep.
Somewhere around that time frame, long time.
That's a long time.
To go upstairs with mum. I would jump in dad's side of the bed, obviously mum in hers. She'd pick up a magazine or a book. I'd pick up a book and I'd just read side by side with her until she got so tired that she would literally fall asleep reading whatever it was. I would take it out of her hands. I'd just cover her with the doona and I would creep back downstairs to my room. And that was the routine that we got into. And so I just know how dark and lonesome those nights are. And maybe you're listening and you've lost a spouse and you don't have an eldest son or kids at home, or maybe your kids are too young and they can't care for you like that. Like the circumstances are so vastly different. That was just our story.
Yeah.
But I would always remind mum that tomorrow's a new day and that we'll tackle it together tomorrow. We can put today to bed, so to speak. No pun intended, but like we can put today's problems and challenges on the shelf just for a short time and get some sleep. Tomorrow we'll wake up, we'll face a new day. There'll be new ups and new downs for us. And that sort of came, from Psalm 30, which we'll talk about as well, that weeping lasts for the night, but joy comes in the morning.
Yeah.
And so that was sort of in my encouragement to mum that tomorrow we'll face it again.
Yeah, I love that. My story was very different in that I lived with my dad and my three brothers, all grieving very different. Dad had been anticipatorily, is that a word?
Yes. It
grieving
is
mum
now.
for just creating words all over the place for many years. So he'd been grieving already, and then me and my brothers were obviously grieving differently. And I just specifically remember I did choose to get on with life pretty quickly, knowing that my mum's in heaven and I know that she'd be proud of us knowing where she is and happy for her being there in glory, and that we'll see her one day again. And so got on with life and was able to go about my day. But some nights were just definitely, I remember just crying before bed, just weeping in my pillow, in my room alone. Yeah. You're looking at me because I'm welling with tears.
I didn't want to cut you off. I was letting you share.
Yeah. So it's a thing. It's grief is definitely sets in and is tougher at night. And
I recall vividly waking up through the night at different times, already crying in my sleep, crying through dreams, and so I'd wake up eyes full of tears, just going like, have I been crying consciously? And it was just the strangest thing. One of the things that I was grateful for is that in my phone, I just opened a note during, those early months of my grief, and I would just journal thoughts, dreams, episodes. I'd wake up crying and I just very rawly just write them down. Woke up crying tonight. There's rain outside my window. Can't stop thinking about Dad. Angry at God. Whatever the thoughts were, I would just write them down. And, as many of you listening know, that I was in a band, and I didn't know at the time that those raw thoughts would help formulate lyrics to songs, years down the track when we spoke about this stuff and shared it publicly. So that was helpful. It was cathartic in some sense. But also there's something about, even when you're not grieving, to write things down that are in your head and get them out on paper or digitally, which actually enable you to sleep and get to sleep. Because if you think about your mind, it's like a pinball that doesn't have a way out and it's just bouncing around in there. But to actually get those thoughts out, something happens when we do that in the process, where we can let go of them and then find our way back to sleep.
Yeah, your brain can relax because it knows it's done something with that. It's documented and it's safe, and now that can put that to the back and you can go back to sleep.
Yes. So that comes under, I guess, one of our 9 categories. So why don't we talk about the 9 quality sleep identifiers that we break down in our workshop coming up this month?
Yeah, let's do it.
And as you hear these 9, all we want you to do, be thinking, if you're driving, walking, whatever, just process these. And we just want to identify, am I in the red zone when it comes to this area, or am I in the green? Am I red where this is a real struggle for me? I know that there's areas I could improve in, or am I green? I'm good. This area is ticked off. Not to worry.
I'm doing it. I'm consistent. Yeah.
And as we go, the goal is that if we could just turn one of the red areas that you find to green within the next month, your sleep is going to improve. And our goal inside of our Good Grief Club, our membership, is that we work through these slowly and at your own pace so that you can get to a place where your sleep has improved. Because this is one thing that my chiropractor told me, that he said, Ryan, you're not getting a good night's sleep and waking up with back pain, which is completely different. But if you're waking up in pain, you're already at a lower percentage to face the day ahead.
Yeah.
So you're already at a deficit.
Yeah.
And it's the same just sleeping generally.
Yeah.
So let's kick things off.
Let's go.
We'll list these off.
Yeah.
Up first
is light. Yeah. So in your room, do you have blockout curtains? Are you sleeping with a lamp on? I mean, I think a lot of people do in grief, but maybe it's hindering your sleep and you just don't know it.
Is there street lights outside? Is there a full moon?
Yeah.
There are all sorts of things that affect us with light.
Yep.
So pretty simple one. Is your room dark enough to actually be getting a good night's sleep?
Yeah. Second one?
Noise.
Yeah.
Is your house next to a train station? Are you in a city?
Do you have cicadas outside like we do?
I don't know how many people know
someone
what
next door with
cicadas
a crying baby or...
Yeah. What sort of noise is impacting you? We heard from a lot of our members, some people love to sleep with the TV on just so it's not silent. The radio is often very common. Maybe you use like different sleep music, whether it's ambient noise, whether it's rainforest, whether it's rain. Like, what sort of noise do you have that's worth paying attention to?
Yeah, so maybe you do need noise, some kind of white noise, or maybe you don't at all. And sometimes when I wake up in the morning and hear the cicadas, my alarm's not going off yet. I put one earbud in on my ear. I'm a side sleeper, so the ear that's up, I put an earbud in and that allows me to go back to sleep and just cuts out that. I guess it turns the louder whatever noise down into white noise, so into a muffle.
Yeah, so do you need to block noise that's in your world? Do you need to change the noise that's in your world? Like if you're listening to the TV or the radio, probably not the best noise to be just filling
maybe
your
the
mind
chatter
with.
Is subconsciously
keeping you awake,
keeping your brain
alert.
active. Yeah.
Do you need to change to white noise? Yep.
Yep.
Up next, number 3.
Number 3, temperature.
This is a big one.
Yeah.
And I know we differ on this as well. You often feel much warmer than I do.
Yeah.
And so, being covered, fan on, aircon, window open, those sorts of things definitely affect it.
Generally, you sleep better in a cooler environment.
That's right.
Yep.
And little side tip here, having a nice hot, warm, shower before bed. If you can elevate your temperature by half to a degree higher, when you come out of the shower, your body will naturally start to cool, and that starts to put you into a sleep state as well. So it's not only paying attention to the temperature in your room, but also your body temperature before you go to sleep.
So how are you going with these? Are you red? Are you green?
Yeah,
are you in between?
Just be making a note.
Yeah.
Are you red or are you green? That's all we're asking at this point.
Yeah. All right, next one, routine.
Routine's a big one when it comes to sleep because it's probably one of the things we all know how to go to sleep. We've been doing it since we were born, but none of us have been taught how to sleep and how to put a routine in place. And then you throw grief in the mix. And as we know, routines at any time of the day get thrown completely out the window and just mashed up to a million pieces. So thinking about and planning a routine as we go to sleep while grieving is really important. It actually lends to our last point as well, which we'll save for number 9.
Yeah, so you probably already naturally have some sort of a routine that you just do. What is it? Unconsciously.
Yeah. And maybe that looks like there's dinner at some point. There's a shower. There's brushing of teeth.
Yep.
Or
going to the toilet.
Yeah. Removing makeup. All of those things, or preparing for
getting
bed.
your pajamas on.
That is a routine, but maybe it's just not planned or thought through as much. Or there's some unhelpful things in there as well, which we're going to find in our next few points.
Yeah.
Too. So to ask yourself if this is red or green, do I have a routine that I've actually planned out for bed? If the answer is no, you're in the red zone. If the answer is yes, I've actually thought about a routine that's going to help me to sleep, then you're in the green.
Next one, diet.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know diet's a huge thing in every area of our life, especially with our health and getting to sleep.
Yep. And what we're fueling our brain with, and then also what times we're eating as well. We've been
Which we probably didn't do good last time.
Yeah, we've been a little bit lazier recently.
Over the festive season.
And it's changed as Nazare has been wanting to stay up a bit later and...
just need a bit of comfort food.
Yes. And so holiday season too.
Yeah.
But as our nutritionist and friend Elizabeth Duskalov talks about in some of our workshops, having the right brain food to actually help us process grief is really important, but then also the right times. And so is there too much sugar? Is there too much?
Are we overeating too close to bed? Are you allowing enough time for digestion before sleep? All those things.
Yes.
Yep.
So mark yourself red or green in terms of diet. 1, are you eating the foods that you know help you process grief and help aid your brain? 2, are you giving yourself at least 2 hours, 2.5 hours after you've eaten before your bedtime routine starts? 3, do I have a 3? Maybe that's it. Yeah.
Let's go with 2.
Cool.
All right. Next one.
What are you up to here? Number 6?
Yes. Yes.
All those counting.
I couldn't count.
This is hydration and
Yeah.
alcohol. These two are paired.
Yes.
Let's start with the latter first. Alcohol.
Are you doing it?
Are you doing it? Is it regular?
Yeah.
Don't beat yourself up if it is. Pretty common to be drinking, and also
Especially on the weekend, most people will.
but in grief, it's pretty common to be drinking
Yes.
because it is a form of masking where we're at in grief and our emotion. But it's a huge hindrance for sleep, massive hindrance. Alcohol stays in our system for quite some time and a lot long.
Yeah, I think it's up to 24 hours.
Yeah,
isn't
a
it?
lot longer than
Yeah.
we all think.
Yeah.
And has an effect on us. So it doesn't help your body in recovery. So if you're physical and exercising and so forth, it's not helping you in that regard. It's not helping you sleep, and it's also masking those thoughts and emotions as well.
Yeah. But on the other hand, hydration, are you drinking enough water? Obviously, there's going to be tears and grief. We need to be replenishing our body from all the tears that we cry out.
Yep.
I was going to say tear out, that we cry out.
Quick side story.
Yeah.
My Christian studies teacher in high school, Adrian, won't share his last name, one of my favorite people in the whole world and one of my favorite people in school that, everyone has like someone that just was in your corner. He was really in my corner. And he shared his testimony is that he went through a divorce and it caused him so much grief and heartache that he ended up in a mental institution crying and crying and crying. They checked his blood and he'd lost 1/3 of his blood due to crying.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Right, because our blood's got so much water content in it.
Crazy. And so coming back to our point here of thankfully he's out
okay.
of that. He's okay, and he's living with meaning and purpose again in his life. And but that's just to say, when it comes to hydration, really important. Have we drunk enough water through the day and also into the night as well? So alcohol and hydration. Where are you? Are you in the red zone there? Probably a bit too much, or not enough.
I like to try and start my day and end my day with some water too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever works for you.
Number 7.
We
got exercise. So the simple way to think about this is, are we getting our heart rate up and 30 minutes of exercise throughout our day? If you're 4 times a week exercising, you'd be in the green or more. If you're 3 or less, you'd be in the red. So just knowing where you are there.
Yeah. Ooh, exercise, it's one of those things that is good for you. Sometimes it's hard to do, but you always feel good after. I'm going to play squash this afternoon.
And
I'm
playing
so
paddle
looking
ball
forward to it.
or paddle tennis.
Oh, getting the heart rate up. Like there's honestly almost nothing better.
And then there's sports that help you release grief in different ways.
Yeah.
So you mentioned squash and I mentioned paddle. Those things you're whacking a ball
using force
as hard as you can.
Yeah.
Boxing, phenomenal. Running, like you can't think about too much when you're running because your body's just screaming out in pain after a certain time.
Even cycling, people do those
Yep.
hectic cycling classes.
So some of these different forms of sport or exercise really, really helpful for processing and letting that stored up energy of grief out.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you haven't tried any of those, now's your sign to go
rock
try
climbing.
one,
We
take
loved
one
rock
up.
climbing. That was fantastic because you're literally fearing for your life.
Yep.
And
you can't think of anything
you
else.
Can't think of anything else. Yeah. Cool. All right.
great.
So what was that? 7.
That was 7.
Okay. What do we got for 8?
8. Ooh.
Easy or hard, this one?
I think everyone deals with this one.
What do we got?
Screen time.
Yeah. Big one.
Oh, big one for our generation.
Well, any generation.
Well, yes.
Any generation.
Sorry, this era, this time of life.
Okay.
Whoever's
Okay,
alive.
This era.
Yes, this era of technology.
Not just our generation, please.
Yes. Screen time, massive. Like, how many times do we read something that says, when are you putting your phone down, at least an hour before bed, those blue, is it blue light?
Yep. Blue light that comes from screens.
Yeah.
Whether that's phone, iPad, TV.
Yeah.
They're all the screens.
All of it. We know this and we're still guilty of it some nights,
And we were just talking about this week, we were just vegging out and feeling and being lazy, I guess, with our night. And that's okay from time to time. But we were just both scrolling Instagram, hopped off and went to bed. And I just said, like, I feel gross. Like, I don't feel good after what I've just, and like, we're conscious of like trying to listen to and read good stuff on social media. It's not usually garbage. Like it's,
or just an aimless scroll.
For me, it's like Denzel Washington talking about his faith. It's like what's happening around the world that, we're in touch with in terms of grief and so forth. It's listening to inspiration. It's not bad stuff,
no,
but it's still seeping in and not allowing us to rest and prepare for bed well.
Yeah. So not only is it the lights that are getting to your eyes and your brain that way, it's the content and the brain activity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
we're super conscious of this stuff and we still do it. So yeah.
And I get it. Like you're so in the pit of trying to reconcile how you're going to go on living or just get through the next 24 hours that it's so hard to face those thoughts that it's easier just to mindlessly scroll. And I get that because I've been there. And
something to numb.
Totally.
Yeah.
But it's counterintuitive to actually moving forward and processing our grief.
Yeah.
To do that, we need a good night's sleep. So to mark yourself red or green, is your phone or TV down, off, out of sight at least 1 hour before your head hits the pillow.
And also with that, like a little side bonus, like is your phone next to you when you go to sleep? Because that also can be a hindrance. When we first got married, we decided we would have no phones in the bedroom for our relationship's sake, but also our sleep and health. And they're charged in the kitchen. Yep.
And here's where I came to on that. I wanted the last person that I saw and heard and thought about before I went to bed being my wife. I didn't want it some celebrity, some person on social media that I've got no idea who they are. And so that was part reason as well.
Yeah, totally. Even if she is telling you you're scoot hooting around the bedroom. I'm going to belly laugh.
All right, that's number 8. We've come to number 9.
All right, you take it away.
All right, after all of the 8 that we've covered so far, the 9th is consistency. It is, are we on top of these 5-6 times out of the week? Maybe we slip once or twice, but are we on top of them more often than not? Consistency is going to be the thing when it comes to grief that's going to help you when it comes to just about everything, when it comes to your consistency in your diet, your relationships, like being in touch with and surrounded by the right people, your faith and how much we are able to lean into the word of God, into worship music, get to places of faith, consistency in your exercise. It flows through everything.
Yeah. And it enwraps all of these and creates a result for your sleep, basically.
Totally. So based on these 9 things, we just want to give ourselves the best shot to get a good night's sleep or a semi-decent night's sleep so that we can wake up, face the challenges of tomorrow, all that it has in store for us, but allow our body to rest.
Yeah. So if you can just make 1 or 2 little incrementally small changes, you're going to get better results over weeks and weeks.
Totally. And like we said, we're going to be breaking down these further on our grief workshop.
Yeah.
The link is below for you to jump on. That is absolutely free. You're going to hang out with Kaylee and myself and a whole bunch of other women all around the world. We've been able to speak with now women in over 60 different countries. So you're not alone, and you'll probably find a buddy close by as well.
Yeah, we've had ladies go, oh, hey. So good. We love having everyone on there, and it's been, we've had great feedback of how practical it is and how much it's helped people so far already.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, we wanted to end with some encouragement. Hey, from, like we mentioned earlier in Psalm 30, a psalm from David.
Yeah, we won't read the whole thing. Worth you picking up your Bible, jumping to Psalm 30 and poring over it.
Because as many of you probably know, David's story, he did have favor from the Lord, but he also went through, a fair few losses himself. So just verse 5 says, like Ryan said earlier, weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning.
And we won't break down that whole scripture on this episode, but sometimes that dark night of the soul is longer than it's not literally just one night. That can obviously, as we know, extend for weeks, months, years in our grief, but joy will come in the morning. Maybe that's this lifetime, maybe it's the next. But if you go on to read the rest of that Psalm of David's, he talks about how God turns his wailing into dancing. And that might be something that is so far from where you're at in your grief right now. But we're sitting here today to tell you that it is totally possible. God is with you every step of the way, and so are we.
Yeah.
That's why this podcast exists. That's why we're holding this workshop end of this month. So we hope to see you on that for more encouragement, love, and support.
Yep. Can't wait to see you there.
Cool.
Big love.
Bye for now.
Bye.